Good afternoon YouTube, welcome back to another board game review video. This past week I'd done my Monday morning vlog and decided to try something different. I thought I'd give you guys the chance to choose a game title out of a few on offer. The one that won this week is the excellent Zombicide Black Plague by Simon Games. With the way the world did the minute, I think we all need a little bit of light relief, so I thought this would be the ideal choice for the review. It's a fast paced, light game that plays up to 6 players. It can also be played solo and is a lot of fun. Without further ado, let's get down to the table, let me open the box and show you what's in it. Okay, so here we have the back of the box. It has a picture of all the game's contents. It lists them down as 71 miniatures, 9 game tiles, 6 survivor cards, 6 plastic dashboards, 6 colour bases, 6 dice, 48 trackers, 68 tokens and 125 mini cards. Also, we have a little bit of blurb on the back. Welcome to the dark times. In a mad quest for forbidden knowledge and ultimate power, the necromancers have unleashed the apocalypse upon the living. Zombies have destroyed the king's armies and now roam the land, spreading chaos and death. Is it the end? Are we cursed to die, huddled in our homes? It's a dark time, but not for those with a will. Draw your sword, span your crossbow, and ready your spells. For the few, for the brave, it's time for Zombicide Black Plague. So, it looks like we've got player identity cards, we've got the main heroes themselves, we have some colour counters, and we have some dice and various cards and tokens, which will make more sense as we play through a turn later. We have some coloured pegs, and then we go on to some of the characters. So the one on the left is the Abomination, the one on the right is a Necromancer, and then we go on to the minions, who are your basic zombies. We come over to their big brothers, who are affectionately known as the Fatties. And finally, the dreaded enemy, the runners. These guys are fast and they'll be in your face before you know it. Okay, and then we have some board tiles, which are all double-sided, and I believe there's 9 of them in the box. And then we have 6 player dashboards, which are really handy as they help the players keep all their equipment together. As you can see on the bottom here, we have a little marker with a blue zone, a yellow zone, an orange zone and a red zone, all of which will become apparent later. And finally, we have the Zombicide Black Plague rulebook and quests with 2 special tiles. So I think you'd agree folks, you had quite a lot in the box before we even start. Okay, so let's take a look at the rulebook. Like you see, the artwork is absolutely lovely, typical Simon quality. Okay, and as is the norm for these books, we start off with basically the contents and a guide to what we got in the box, which I've just shown you before. Okay, so then we start off with Get Medieval, and we start off with a little bit of an introduction, which I'm not going to read as I've done that for you before with the other one, and a little feature which is nice, showing the other Zombicide games. I hadn't mentioned earlier, but Zombicide is quite a big franchise. There was the original box set, and then there's been several expansions released since. Okay, so as is now the norm, there's the setup pages, which shows all the bits we need. How to set up your player utility stand, which was shown earlier, and how to set up the board. And then the important part, the meat and taters of it all, is the game overview. So it tells us about the player's phase, the zombie phase, the end phase, and winning and losing. And then we start off with the basics of the game. Okay, then we go on to stuff like line of sight, movement, and very useful, a section on reading an equipment card, basically showing the equipment cards, what they are and how we read them. So far, so good. We have pages on experience, danger level and skills, as well as showing you how to use your inventory, where you can swap your different items, weapons, cards, spells, etc. in and out. Then we go into depth with each phase. Be it again the player phase, going over what you can do, reorganise, trade, combat actions, and it just shows you basically melee weapons, ranged action, magic action. I mean, the artwork, again, you know, you're either going to like this style of artwork or not, but personally I'm a massive fantasy fan, as most of you now know, and I really do appreciate it. Okay, enchantment action, take or activate an object, all about noise, make some noise, or you can do nothing. Okay, then there's the zombie phase, which again is covered with the activation, the movements, etc. Okay, and then goes into the different one where the runners, which I mentioned before, these guys are really scary, tells you a little bit about them. And then the step 2, which is a spawn phase, where the zombies, the fatties and the runners all come back into play. Okay, then we lead on with a few examples of the game, showing us how we open doors, etc. And then we get onto a part about the baddie of the game, the necromancers. What basically happens is these guys show up and all hell breaks loose. Okay, so then we start our phase on combat. Goes in, shows all the different symbols on the cards, what they mean, etc. Ranged actions, so obviously some of our characters have bows, crossbows, etc. And of course, who doesn't like a little bit of melee? Up front in your face, stick an axe or a sword in a zombie's face, always nice and satisfying. Not that we're actually acting against zombies or you know, racist on this channel, but there you go. Okay, we then have all the different charts for the numbers of the enemies, and again we just come across to a little bit more descriptive about some of the game tiles, what they do, etc. A little bit more on magic, and some more on movement and the tiles and noise. There's a little bit about vaults, which were some of the cards I shown earlier, and some of the different tiles. Basically, vaults are what they say on the box. They are secret rooms that get accessed and that you can travel around the board quickly with. There's a guide for playing with 7+ survivors. Like I'd mentioned earlier, Zombicide is a massive franchise, and you can actually interlink all the different boxes, as far as I believe. I've never done it myself, as I've only played this one, but it's a nice useful thing to get some use out of those expansions. And who doesn't like playing a game with 7+ survivors? Imagine the fun you'd have with that one. Okay, and then we come on to my favourite part of the book, which is the quests. So this is basically a series of different quests that you go through, and it shows you how you set them up, what enemies are there, which way the map is, etc. For the sake of the demonstration of this video, I'm going to actually play through this first quest. Quest 0, Tutorial, Danse Macabre. It says it's easy, 4+ survivors, and it should play with a time of approximately 45 minutes, which, to be honest, is approximate because we've played the various missions and the game plays that well that once everybody gets in maybe a turn or two and gets used to what they're doing, you know, the movement, the combat, the enemy phase, the game really does move along very fast. It's an absolutely fantastic game. I know I do this all the time, almost ruining reviews with, you know, no suspense at the end, but I can't hide my enthusiasm for my board game collection, and this one really is a blast. Okay, so again, we're just going through all the different quests, and I'm not going to read them out because if you make the right choice, you know, if you go along, you fancy this game, the right choice, sorry, I shouldn't be actually trying to influence people, but you know what I mean. I don't want to spoil any of this stuff for you. Okay, and then we get to like a glossary at the back with all the different effects, etc. And very nice is an index with all the different things that you're going to need. So anytime you get stuck, pull the rule book out, have a quick flick down through the alphabetical index, and before you know it, you're going to be there, you'll find your solution, and more importantly, you can carry on playing and getting stuck into hammering those zombies. Okay, and on the back, as again is the norm, is a game round summary. I absolutely love it when companies do this. You know, in the early days, you'd be sitting there with the rule book and it could be a nightmare. You know, somebody turn around and say, for example, oh, can I move 3 squares, or can I do this? And you're like, yeah, sure, hang on. No, wait a sec, let me check the rule book. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. 10 minutes later, and you find a paragraph that has like an unwritten, you know, just something really, really silly that causes confusion with players, and more importantly, it takes you out the experience, you know, the immersion in these games, getting together with your friends. You know, I played this at the Wargaming Club. I think we played 5 on the night, if I'm not mistaken. You know, and you don't want to come out of that immersion. Everyone's happily like into their character, almost like a type of hybrid with Dungeons and Dragons, you know. You have like a wizard, you have like a dwarf, like, you know, a warrior, a ranged specialist and stuff like that, and everybody has like the role in this game. You know, it's just really good. And the last thing you need is just a system that is clunky and horrible, that has people turning around. You know, do me a favour, stop the game, Nick, let's find this out. You don't need that. You know, time these days is precious to all of us. You know, we've all got kids, we've all got families, wives, partners, significant other, you know, relatives, jobs, you know, the list goes on. It goes on with all the stuff that we've got to do. So, you know, when you sit down and play a board game, you just want to just get straight on with it. You know, you just want to enjoy the experience, and this game really does offer that. Another thing to mention, folks, before we start, is there's quite a big footprint for this game, the area that it takes. So I'm going to be shooting on this angle to try and keep everything in shot. I know the player boards are actually out of shot, but I'll explain what I'm doing as I go along. I just want to be able to keep the camera on the actual main game board, and we'll take it as we go on. Okay, so before we start and I show you the board and explain the scenario, I just want to introduce the characters to you. Okay, so here we have Anne. Okay, so in the top left you're going to notice there is a green peg, and there is the numbers 0, 1, 2 and 3. These are her wounds. Dead centre, here we have a green peg again, and this is actually her experience levels. So as she does stuff and she goes along, she's going to be gaining experience points, and these are going to move up through the blue, the yellow, the orange, and finally onto the red, where she becomes most powerful. So as we move through the colours, the peg moves down. So when she gets enough experience points in the yellow zone, it'll move down to the yellow, the orange and the red. Okay, and we'll notice that Anne is dual wielding short swords here and here. She has a weapon profile. Okay, so start with a card here. So the belt with a little line through means it makes no noise. The naught means she has to be in the same square as the enemy. The 1 means we roll 1 dice. The target with a 4+ means we need to roll 4, 5 or 6 for it to hit, and the skull means it does 1 damage. Okay, so then we go across the baldric and we have the same layout, except he's the yellow player. We have Nelly, who has a short sword, and again it's the same layout. The purple peg for her wounds and the purple peg for her experience. Finally, we have my favourite character, the dwarf Samson, which, no great surprise, is wielding a large hammer. And same again, he has his experience and he has his wounds. And finally, before we start, I just wanted to explain the game summary so you've all got a clue what's going on. Okay, so we have the first step, and that's to choose the first player if there's more than one player, and they receive the first player token. Okay, and then we go to the player phase. Each player has 3 activations, okay? So in this we can move, we can search, we can open a door. If we're in the same square as another character, we can reorganise our backpack or trade. We can initiate combat, enchant an action, take or activate an objective, we can make noise, or we can do nothing. And then we go to the zombie phase, and the zombies activate once. They either attack or they move. In the case of our friend the runner, who I mentioned earlier, the scary ones, they actually get 2 activations a turn. That's what makes them so dangerous. Okay? The second part of the zombie stage is they spawn. So we use these cards here, which run the game, and they basically, depending on the level of experience of the survivors, they will tell us how many zombies spawn. Okay? As an example, if our lead character was in the yellow experience zone, it'd be 3 walkers. In the blue, 1 fatty. in the orange 5 walkers, in the red 3 runners. Okay, so it's a strange mechanic because it means that of course we want the experience because we want to win the mission. However, the more experience you get, the more dangerous the zombies and the enemies become. Okay, and then we go to the end phase where we remove all noise tokens from the board, and the next player, if there's more than one player, receives the first player token. We keep doing this until we get to the win scenario or the characters die. Okay, and finally on the back we have a target priority, which basically tells us how many experience points you get for killing a walker, a fatty, or an abomination, a runner, or a necromancer. But we're not going to be seeing a necromancer in this. Okay guys, so let's start the game. You'll notice that I've gone for a more close-up shot. Despite the size of the footprint of the game, there's quite a lot of stuff on the table, so I basically wanted to show you the action. Each player takes their activations in order, and then we move on to the next player before going on to what the zombies do, and then going on to the end phase. I think what we'll do to start off is we're going to move Nelly. For the first activation, we're going to move her into the room. As you notice, the door is open. So Nelly has moved into the room. For the second activation, she's going to pick up the blue token, okay, which is going to give her 5 experience points, which I'm going to mark off out of sight of the board. You might hear a little click. Okay, so Nelly now has 5 experience points for collecting that token. For the third and final action, I'm going to take a search. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through this set of cards, and I'm going to take the first one off the top for what we find, okay? And we notice that Nelly has found a torch. Quite a useful item, so we're going to put that in her backpack. Okay, next we're going to go with Anne. Anne is going to move up and she's going to attack the walker. For her second action, she's going to get into melee combat. Now Anne has a short sword, so what she's going to do is she's within range, she's in the same square. She rolls 1 dice and she needs to hit on a 4, 5 or 6. Okay, so as you can see, she's hit a 4 and therefore she kills the zombie. This will also get Anne 1 experience point. For Anne's third turn, she's going to open the blue door. She can do this because Nelly had collected the blue token in the previous go. Okay, so that door is now open. Next we go with Samson. For his first activation, he's simply going to move into the same square as Anne. For his second activation, he's going to move into the room where Anne had previously opened the door. And for his third activation, he's going to take the green token, which is going to give him 5 points. And finally, we have Baldric. Baldric, for his first action, will go into the same square as Anne. He'll enter the room with Samson and he is going to search. So again, we take the top card off the item deck, which happens to be a speed scroll. Very handy considering he's the magic user. I'm going to put that into his backpack for further use. You'll notice now that all 4 player characters have gone. We now go onto the zombie phase. Okay? So all enemies with the exception of the runner get 1 action. However, for the purpose of this game, as you'll notice, there's a locked door here, so the fatty can't move. He's trapped in his room. There's a locked door here, so the runner can't move. He is trapped in his room, so therefore there won't be any action from those. However, we do spawn. So what we do is, because we picked up the green token, which I mentioned earlier, it now means that this green zone is also active. We're going to be spawning in the red zone first, then spawning into the green zone afterwards. Taking a quick look across at all our characters, nobody is out of the blue zone, so therefore we're going to take one of the yellow Zombicide cards and we're going to see what happens. Okay, so the top card reads, if you notice here, we're in the blue, so all it says is it's going to be 1 runner. 1 runner, he says, all. You can see how much fun that causes in a bit. Okay, so what we do, with that in mind, we now put the 1 runner in that zone. So he's going to be up and at us next turn unless we deal with him. Okay? And then we're going to do the same for the green zone over here. Okay, so again, we pull our card and this time it says, for blue, 1 fatty. So we're going to place a fatty in the green zone. Okay, as soon as we've got no noise tokens to remove, that is actually the end of the first game round. So as you can see, the game starts moving along quite quick. Okay, so we're going to now start turn 2. What I'll do is I'll probably do 3 turns so we can at least see some of the combat. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to start this time with Samson. Samson is going to open the red door for his first action. So what we do, we flick the tile over and it will indicate there, if you'd see it, the door is now open. For his second move, Samson is going to go into the room with the fatty. And for his third move, he's going to get his big axe and smack the big fella in the face. Okay, so looking at the profile of Samson's weapon, his warhammer needs to be in the same room, which he is. He rolls 1 dice. He needs to score 4, 5 or 6, so we'll see what he does. Let's go dwarf boy. Nice, he scores a 6. Fortunately for us, Samson's hammer does 2 damage. The fatty, upon looking on the target priority chart, takes 2 damage to destroy. Therefore, that's fatty 0, dwarf 1. Okay, because he's killed a fatty, he now gets 2 experience points, taking him on to 7. Which will become apparent in a minute because he is now in the yellow zone. Remember what I said earlier about the experience? So stuff should start to heat up. So that was Samson's turn. Okay. Next, we're going to go with Anne. Anne is going to move into the same zone as the runner and try and deal with him. Okay. So Anne is stepping up in for her second turn and she's going to attack the runner. Now we know previously before she needs a 4 to hit. So what she's going to do is she's going to roll. Okay, she gets a 6. Now she's hit. However, the runner takes 2 wounds. To kill an enemy, you need to roll the exact wounds. So really, I shouldn't have done that. It's probably a mistake, as her weapon only does 1 damage. So for her third action, I'm just going to move away. Okay, so we go on to Baldric. Baldric has got a spell called Inferno, and this does 2 damage, so that could potentially deal with our runner. Baldric's first activation, I'm going to bring him out into the street. Okay, for his second turn, I'm going to use the fireball, the Inferno, and I need to roll. Oh, I'm rolling 4 dice, and I need 4, 5 or 6 on them. Okay, so fortunately for me, 3 of them were rubbish. However, I did manage to get a 6, which would be a hit. That spell does 2 damage, which is enough to remove our runner from the board. That's extremely fortunate, because if you get to see what these guys do, they are lethal. Okay, so that ends Baldric's turn. And finally to go, we need to decide what we're going to do with Anne. So I think what we should do is move her up with her teammates. So for the first activation, she's going to go 1 to here. For the second, 2 to there. For the third, into this room. Okay, so that was a pretty action-packed turn 2, or certainly action-packed half of turn 2 for the player characters. So now we go on to the zombie phase. So we've got our fatty and we've got our runner. If you remember rightly before, the runner is still locked in the room, indicated by the door token here, so he can't do anything apart from run around the room going nuts. Our fatty, however, has no obstruction and is going to make his way towards the nearest friendly target. Okay, he has 1 action, so therefore he's just going to move towards us. That is the end of the zombie phase, and now we go on to the spawn phase. Now, I said to you earlier that one of the characters, Samson, had got into the yellow zone as he has 7 experience points. So we're now looking for the yellow mark on the card, not the blue, and that should give us a little bit more danger. So draw in the card and we have a look at the yellow. Okay, so if we'd have been blue, we'd have drew the fatty, but however, we're experience yellow, so therefore we have 2 walkers. Okay, and as you notice now, we spawn them there, and then we need to go over to the green point here and we do the same again. So this time we have yellow, which gives us all standard fatties and an extra activation. Okay, so what will actually happen there is we overrule the spawning, but because we've got a fatty, we give him an extra activation. This is an out of turn sequence move, so he is now going to move towards us. Okay, and that's the end of turn 2. So hopefully you'll see how quick this game actually moves once we get into the swing of things. Let's go for a final third turn and we see what happens. Okay, so as you'll notice over here, we have 2 walkers to deal with. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to step Anne up into the square for her first activation. For her second activation, I'm going to use my sword to hit. So we need 4+. Okay, she misses. Okay, and for her third activation, we're going to do the same attack again, needing a 4. Oh, come on, seriously, man. Okay, so Anne has done very little this turn. So now we're in panic mode, so we're going to have to go to Baldric. Baldric has a spell called Mana Blast. Okay, so we need to be in the same square or one further away. He is. We roll 1 dice and we need 4 up. Let's try. Yes, okay. So that was enough to kill that walker. The walker disappears and Baldric gains an experience point. Okay, and he has 1 activation left, so I'm going to do the same trick again. I'm going to fire the Mana Blast. We need 4 on the dice. We get a 4 again, wouldn't you know it? Okay, so that's another walker down. And another experience point for Baldric. And a very successful turn for our wizard. Okay, so I think what we need to do now is I'm going to use Samson for his first activation to open the door. For the second activation, he's going to go into the room, and the third activation, he's going to hopefully hit the runner. Now, if you remember what I said earlier, Samson's hammer has 2 damage. So I roll 1 dice, and we need a 4. Come on, Samson. Oh, just misses. Okay, so we're going to have some fun next time. Okay, and I think what we'll do is we'll bring Anne up behind Samson to give him a little bit of support. So we'll go 1 with a first action. I'll search your room with a second action, and that gives us a short sword, which isn't much use to us, but we can put it into our backpack and give to another player at a later point. Okay, so that is all the players' actions, and now we go on to the zombie attack phase. So the zombies attack automatically, and they automatically hit it in the same square as a character. So what's going to happen is the runner gets 2 actions. So for his first action, he's going to automatically wound Samson. For his second action, he's automatically going to wound Samson. Okay, so Samson now has 2 wounds and only has 1 more wound before he succumbs to the darkness. Okay, the fatty is also going to move, and he's going to move into the room, trying to come round and flank Anne. Okay, so that's the end of the walker phase, the zombie phase, and we now go into the spawn phase. So we're going to spawn first here, and so because our lead character is in the yellow zone, it means we take the yellow option. Okay, and we've drawn 4 walkers. And we've drawn 4 walkers, so they go into that square. We now go across, for the last time in this demonstration, to the green spawn zone. Okay, we pull out our card, and we notice it says, in the yellow zone, here, it's going to be 2 walkers. So we place those 2 walkers, and that concludes the end of the demonstration. What I'm going to do, I hope you all enjoyed that. I'm going to go back up top, and I'm going to give you my final thoughts on this game. Hey folks, so back up top, and here we are for my final thoughts. I absolutely love this game with a passion. There's no other way of putting it. I played the game several times solo, running 4, 5 or 6 characters, and I really enjoyed it. My favourite part though is the human cooperation. I love co-op mode. In co-op mode, each player takes their own character, and it's all about coordinating your team to do the best actions you can in a scenario given. As a little side note, another reason I enjoy this game, or the particular take on this game, is it reminds me very much of the Evil Dead movie. Not sure you guys have seen it, but I hope you have. The Evil Dead, The Army of Darkness. This game's theme is obviously heavily taken from that, so in closing guys, I'd highly recommend this game. I won't lie, it can be expensive. However, if you're looking for a game that works just as well in multiplayer as it does in solo, you will not go wrong with Zombicide Black Plague.